All right, cool. Well, I know you guys can't see this yet, but I get a little monitor down here because we're doing this via Zoom. So I'm literally looking at Bill Nye, the Science Guy, right now. So that's pretty cool. All right. Just going to wait till he gets his sound and a few other things on.
Are we there?
Yes, you are.
We're echoing. It's crazy.
How's the audio there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you very well, as long as I don't crank it too high. Oh my gosh, how's my hair?
You're looking good. You're looking good. All right, awesome. Well, as you guys can hear, we're ready to go. So let's get this started. First and foremost, welcome to our convention in person this year in Atlantic City. As you guys might imagine, we also have thousands of our members streaming in and certainly streaming in for this keynote. I know, very excited. We've had a lot of great keynotes, a lot of great sessions. You can imagine, though, on my phone, I keep getting texts. Can you get so-and-so to meet Bill Nye? Can you get so-and-so to meet Bill Nye? So certainly I know we're really all excited to be here today. First and foremost, certainly on behalf of all of us in the leadership team, we have our Secretary-Treasurer, Petal Robertson, right here. Let's give her a big round of applause. I know that our Vice President, Steve Beatty, is either walking in or here now, so let's give Steve Beatty a big round of applause. Our Executive Director, Steve Swetsky, big round of applause. Thank you, Steve. And our Deputy Director, Kevin Kelleher, let's give him a big round of applause. Now listen, I know the convention floor is shut down. I know many of you had a chance to walk around there, go into so many sessions. I hope, like so many others I've heard from, I hope you had a great experience this year as we ease back in, have done so many things to make sure we get to this point, done things correctly, got vaccinated if we could, worn masks, done the distancing. It's been a great opportunity for us to see each other, to reconnect, and to kind of move into this space. So it's, I know, been stressful. You guys have done such a wonderful job. That's why we have the #1 schools in the nation still, even through a pandemic. We've been able to celebrate our Teacher of the Year, our ESP of the Year. We've been able to learn so much more. We're continuing our work towards equity and social justice and environmental justice and educational justice. We are going to keep fighting for racial justice and all the things that we are passionate about. We are going to be successful in all that we do, in the important work that we move forward in together, because we stand strong as one, as a union. So I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Let's give yourselves a big round of applause for everything that you do. And for the record, Bill Nye is also applauding you. I'm watching on the screen, so okay. All right, now it is my pleasure to introduce Bill Nye. Bill Nye is an Emmy Award-winning television host, science educator, mechanical engineer, podcast host, and author who's best known for his role as the star of the timeless 90s science program, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Yes. Since 2010, Nye has served as the CEO of the Planetary Society, where he has played a central role in fulfilling the organization's mission to advance space science and exploration. He is a New York Times best-selling author and has written various titles, including the recently released Bill Nye's Great Big World of Science. Nye also hosts the Science Rules podcast and is joined regularly by field experts and celebrity guests to discuss a range of scientific topics and encourage people to think differently about the world around them. He has built a career on promoting science literacy and is passionate about using science as a vehicle to inspire people of all ages to change the world around them for the better. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big welcome to Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Greetings, educators. Greetings, everyone. It's great to see you. Wait, I can't see you. It's great to be seen. Happy Friday. You all, are we ready to go? I'm going now.
Yeah, you're going now. You've got, just to give you a picture of it here, you've got a few hundred people in person in a room here. We've got thousands streaming in as well. We can certainly see you. We've got you up on the big screen. And please offer some words of welcome, and I'll be happy to ask some questions. We'll have a discussion.
Well, welcome, everyone. I am counting on you all, as a citizen, as a voter and taxpayer. I'm counting on you all to save the world. Okay, we are living at an extraordinary time. I as I say, if you like to worry about things, this is a great time. This is fantastic. We got a pandemic. We've got 8 billion, almost 8 billion people living on a planet that used to have 1.5 billion. And we've got climate change. We've got global conflict. We have the ocean getting bigger. We have people disagreeing on what I would call facts. And along this line, we have this, what is becoming apparent, this social injustice that is leading to disparities and making all of these problems worse. And the key to our future, I believe, is you all, is educators. So go out there and change the world. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you really framed that up for us of how little is on the line. Certainly we all understand the challenges that are there. And you really touched upon a lot of things. And one of the things I've admired and watched over the years, certainly first and foremost, you're an educator. You're somebody who helps to teach. And we see the intersection of education, our roles as educators in our schools, but also I think more and more over the years, at least as I've seen, you've moved into that political space and understanding the connection between politics and what we do and who we elect and how that all fits together with things like climate change and all the other challenges you noted. How have you navigated that space over the years, and what role do you see us as educators doing to navigate that space as well?
Well, sir, have I really navigated it, or have I been crushed in the rapids going down the river? So when somebody like me, who's grew up with every opportunity, grew up middle class, but every opportunity imaginable, and the main thing was what I would call a tradition of academic achievement. And you then discover science and discover this process that we know the world, we know nature and our place in the cosmos and so on. And then we are dealing now with a very large segment of our society who is reluctant to accept what you and I might call facts. And it's a very strange time. And I'm of a certain age when we talked about when the internet is created, when the internet is flying, doing well, it's going to be great. We're going to democratize society in a new and compelling way. Society 2.0 was a term people threw around in the belief, the reasonable belief that when everybody had a voice, we would reach consensus. Through social media and so on, is we have somehow divided ourselves even more strongly. And every day, every week anyway, the division seems stronger and stronger. And so people say to me, Bill, Nye, science guy, what can we do? And to me, the thing we need to imbue in students, the most important skill that we can provide or nurture in our students of all ages is what nowadays people call critical thinking. Now, when I was in school, they might have been called logic. It might have been called reasoning or reasoning power or something like that 40, 50 years ago. But critical thinking, that's a fine phrase. That's fine. And what I believe it means is the ability to evaluate evidence, the ability to evaluate claims, the ability to think. And this takes practice. I talk all the time, I consider all the time our place in the cosmos. It's been discovered in my lifetime. First of all, in my grandparents' lifetime, relativity was discovered. In my grandparents' and then my parents' lifetime, the expanding universe was discovered. And then in my lifetime, it was discovered that not only is the universe expanding, it's accelerating. And do you know why? Nobody knows why. But nevertheless, it's quite provable and remarkable. And what it's showing us is there's a way to know nature. There's a way to understand the world. And that process is what we generally call science. And so this ability to reason, this ability to think critically is the most important skill we can offer. And I have a couple examples I'd like to cite, but I don't want to go off on a tangent. Well, all I do is go off on tangents, but do you have a follow-up?
Well, yes, certainly I do. I will just start by saying, by the way, I'm a high school science teacher, so this is great having you on. I don't even I probably announced it. So you're talking to Sean Spiller, president of NJEA, by the way. I don't know if I announced who I am, right? But it is wonderful to have you. But yeah, I do, and it all kind of ties together. You see where I'm going in the first few here that I've heard, and as we put this together. But do you see the work in terms of pushing the political piece? Do you think through education, through the focus on science and the facts, and by the way, we're living this here in New Jersey, even around the pandemic and vaccinations and mask wearing and a few other pieces, but do you see science and facts and teaching, through teaching the truth and through the methods that we're going to be out in our schools, do you think we will achieve that political will to be successful in things like climate change? Let's discuss that one, right? We all know the window that we have and the shrinking time. Do you see us? Are you optimistic on that? Are you pessimistic? Where do you think we will be successful in pushing the electeds to get something done?
Yes, I am optimistic, and I'll tell you why. Because the young people. Young people aren't going to put up with this stuff, and I understand everybody. If your students are resentful, we have the expression now, "Okay, boomer." Like, climate change was discovered, let's say, in the modern era, by people like James Hansen, who was working at. Yes, the Goddard Institute for Space Studies, NASA, is changing because of all this carbon dioxide. And we've discovered documents produced by Exxon, before it was Exxon Mobil, by the way, where they saw the problem of continuing to put carbon dioxide in the air in 1977 and 78. But people my age have done hardly anything about it. But young people are keenly aware of climate change. They're very much aware of it. There used to be a time, even 3 years ago, the New York Times might have a climate change article every month. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles every day in the New York Times about climate change. And young people are aware of this, and they're going to make changes. But the whole question, as you point out, is, are the changes going to come fast enough? And the example I give everybody is my parents. In World War II, my mother was graduated from college in 1942. My dad was graduated a couple years before her, but they both got involved in World War II. Everybody got involved in World War II. Everybody. And the posters, the music, everything was about addressing this global problem, this war. And they resolved it in 5 years, and then I was born 10 years later. Like, okay, let's put it all behind us. Let's get going. And I'm sure that young people, as they come of age, your students, they're going to get out there and make changes. So we want clean water, renewably produced electricity, and access to the internet for everybody in the world. So let's go.
All right. Well, we're fired up as well. and we're here to support them.
Hey, stand by a moment. I'm going to try changing my internet connection to a landline.
Oh, okay.
All right?
All right. Let's do
Nobody leave this room. Hey, there we are. Did it change? Are we there?
You're looking pretty good right now.
Good. Yeah. So this was all stuff we were going to do about 15 minutes before this started, but there was an adventure with the passcode. But what a world. You guys, I was at the World's Fair in 1964. I was 9. And we're going to have video conference. We're going to have video phone calls in the future.
Right.
And it took, depending how you count, 70 years, 80 years to get to this point. But here we are.
It's
pretty
amazing.
much everybody can afford to do this. It's really an amazing time.
Well, you're speaking to a group of people who've had to do this over the last year and a half with our students,
and
including all these challenges. So trust us, we know well, all the things that you're facing there right now. And kudos to everybody in this room, all our 200,000 educators, for making that work. And absolutely, What is that, as we focus an organization on our kids and really on helping our communities and certainly making sure that they're supported beyond just the reasons that's the right thing to do, it also allows them to be more successful in terms of when they come into our classrooms, our buildings, on our job sites. We want to make sure we support them. How do you see things like climate change? No matter what, as we start to address it, there's still going to be the effects of this for some time. How do you see it impacting student learning, our communities as we face more and more climate change? And we've often seen in the past the unequal ways that it affects different communities. How do you see that moving forward, at least in the near future, until we hopefully get a hold of this and get ahead of this?
Well, it's going to affect us all in transportation, just getting around. I mean, in the Northeast, in New Jersey, where people are predicting it's just going to rain a lot more. And we've got to plan for more storms like Ida and Sandy. And that's all doable. But to your point, at-risk or low-income communities are affected more strongly because, with respect, racism goes back in this country about 4 centuries. And so we've got to do, as I often say, we've got to do everything all at once. So everybody is going to be affected by it, by climate change, especially in New Jersey, where so much of the nation's economy relies on at least 2 things: the ports, the seaports that New Jersey supports, and the remarkable chemical and pharmaceutical industries that New Jersey is the home of. And so these places are all going to be affected by climate change. It's going to rain more, there's going to be more storms. We're all going to have to, in a sense, harden our dwellings. And this whole idea, everybody, that if you give something to somebody, let's say you improve the windows in a low-income community so that their houses or dwellings or apartments, what have you, are more efficient. They don't lose as much heat. They don't require as much energy to keep warm or keep cool. There's this perception that if you give people something, it means you've taken something from somebody else. I don't think that's true. That by raising the quality of life for everybody, everybody's quality of life is better. And this sounds like common sense, but what we want is to really imbue in young people this, what I would call civic duty, or just the one thing we want everybody to do is learn to vote. Make sure you vote. And I know most students are not of an age to vote, but boy, do they influence voters. Yeah. And the parents and adults in their world. And then as soon as they are graduated, hey man, it's time to vote. It's just a huge thing. And I know we just had a remarkable election in New Jersey. There are a few people who aren't talking about it, but not very many. And so I believe we want to stay the course. We want to teach this idea that you can evaluate evidence. That when somebody says the attack on the Capitol was like tourists visiting, you go, no, it wasn't. What are you talking about? And when somebody says vaccines are not effective, you go, what are you talking about? Vaccines go back centuries. That's the oldest medical technology there is. What are you saying? And so we want to imbue in our students this ability to evaluate evidence, and we have people in our society, in the United States, nominally the world's technologically most advanced society, at least segments of it. We have people who think the world is or may be flat. Like, what? We've got to fight that. That's where I want you all to save the world. Now, don't get me wrong. The Earth's going to be here no matter what humans do. I mean, the Earth will be here. We want to save the Earth for us humans. And that's when you ask about climate change, that's what we're talking about. And so the other thing I just really encourage everybody to push back on is, you'll hear every day, well, if we make all electric cars, there isn't enough lithium in the world to make electric cars for everybody. Okay, let's give up. Yeah, cool. Great idea. Let's give up. No, let's come up with a new battery for crying out loud. And then when somebody says, well, we don't have our electric utility lines, electric transmission lines, don't have the capacity to both charge electric vehicles and receive the electricity from solar panels on houses and warehouses and Walmarts or what have you. Well, let's give up. No, let's fix the infrastructure so that we can do that. And this is this optimism that I'm so excited about with young people.
Well, I think even in your answer, we see the yin and the yang. In New Jersey, we're not immune to it. We saw, thankfully not in the highest office, but in our legislature, we saw individuals elected who say literally that about storming the Capitol, and we're going to have to deal with that. But we also have those moments where we see the positive pieces moving forward of people pushing back and challenging and saying we can do this and we need to, and it's a fight that we're engaging in. So, thank you for sharing that message as well. Switching it up a little bit, I know it's one of your areas of passion as well. We're seeing in many ways right now a greater push for public-private partnerships around space exploration, and certainly in other areas, right? There's a lot of what NASA used to do. Now we're seeing NASA and private companies, or certainly we're seeing that model, if you will. How do you assess that model? Whose obligation, or is it a great thing we're seeing these private-public partnerships? Should there be more of a responsibility on us and government, I guess, or what do you see about that? Do you like the arrangement you see, and where do you see that moving forward?
Wow. Now look, we didn't talk about this beforehand, John. Right?
We actually did not. No. So
you're just playing into you're playing into my head. So everybody, I'm of a certain age. I was on my knees watching black and white television when these guys walked on the moon, changed the course of history. In many respects, you could say it was the beginning of the end of the Cold War. You could make that argument. But this following quotation has been attributed to several people, but for sure, one of the people who said it was Alan Shepard. Now, Alan Shepard was the first U.S. guy to fly in space. He went up and down without orbiting the same way Jeff Bezos and his passengers did recently. But then he was also walked on the moon. Same guy, Alan Shepard. And he said, it's sobering to realize that we got here on hardware built by the lowest bidder. So we remind you, all the money spent in space is actually spent on Earth. Whoa! And so what happened to me, everybody, I had a very good physics teacher in high school, and I was influenced to be so into physics by my older brother's physics teacher, who indirectly influenced me. My older brother's 5 years ahead of me. He indirectly influenced me. I had a very good physics teacher, and I took the physics AP exam when it was this new thing during the disco era. And I went to Cornell University. Okay, probably a clerical error in the admissions department. But when I was there, after I finished, you guys may have read about this, but after I finished my engineering requirements, I took one class from this famous guy, Carl Sagan. Just for kicks, I took astronomy. And it changed my life. It changed my life. So he and his colleagues felt that public interest in space exploration was very high, but government support of it was not especially high. And as proof of that, the Viking missions landed on Mars in July of 1976, the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And then the next Mars lander mission wasn't till Sojourner in 1997. Almost 23 years went by. So he started the Planetary Society. He and two other guys started the Planetary Society in 1980. I joined the Planetary Society because I got a letter in the mail. Some of you, I like to joke, may remember this technology, plant-based information storage. I got a letter in the mail, and I joined. And then Carl Sagan's kids watched the Science Guy show. And then I was asked to be on, Carl Sagan died of this extraordinary blood disease. I was asked to speak at his memorial service, and there I was asked to join the board of the Planetary Society. So I joined the board. then became vice president. Then at one of the meetings, I left the room or something, and now I'm the CEO of the Planetary Society.
We know how that works, by the way, all of us in our union work. You leave the room, you got a new job to do. Yep.
So what we do is advance space science and exploration. And here's why I mentioned this long story is I'm in this world of space explorers. I'm not an astronaut. I applied 4 times. I'm not a rocket scientist. I am no longer working on aerospace things full time as an engineer on a drawing board, but I'm around it. And so I'll just tell you, here's a story. Elon Musk came to the planetary science community, it's getting to be about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and said, I want to go to Mars. I want to go to Mars. I want to go live on Mars. And question that if you will, but what do I got to do? And people told him, experts told him, what we got to do is lower the cost of getting to low Earth orbit. Because everybody, this is cool. And if you have students teaching anything, teaching physics, chemistry, biology, fine. But if you're teaching civics or the Constitution, if you're exposing people to stories, science fiction stories about an optimistic or apocalyptic view of the future, all of this can be addressed through space exploration, is my claim. Anyway, you can show that to get to Mars, you almost certainly could not build a rocket big enough to go up above the Earth and onto Mars, because the structure of the rocket would be too massive. Instead, what we will do, is what happened with Apollo and is happening with Chinese Space Agency, Chinese Space Administration right now, is you launch stuff into Earth orbit, then you build a rocket in Earth orbit, then you refuel the rocket in Earth orbit, and then you go on to the moon or Mars. And so SpaceX, started by Elon Musk, and it's not all about SpaceX, but SpaceX is an example. This guy had a vision. He had hired a bunch of people who shared his vision, and they are now the most reliable rocket company in the world. SpaceX is now a more reliable rocket company than the Russian Space Agency, which was traditionally the last 20 years the most reliable company. And this is with a vision and being supported by investment from the government. So it's not that SpaceX or Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' company, is building these things on their own. NASA and the Air Force and the certain National Security Administration invest in these things, and that enables them to build these rockets. And so what's happening right now, and we're all witnessing, is NASA is taking on its role in doing the thing that only NASA can do. There is no, for example, commercial case for exploring Mars. You're not going to make money landing spacecraft on Mars and looking at rocks. You're not going to make money doing that. Instead, NASA now will spend its money on rockets that commercial companies build, and then NASA will have the Jet Propulsion Lab, Applied Physics Lab, Glenn Space Center. There's 10 NASA centers, Stennis, Marshall, these centers around the U.S. that will build this cool hardware, and we'll do space exploration. We'll learn more about the cosmos and our place within it. That's a long answer, but everybody, we're living at this exciting time where the business model or the way we explore space is changing. Commercial companies are building the rockets. Government organizations are building the instruments and the spacecraft that do pure exploration. Back to you.
Well, by the way, I think you might have enough leverage to talk your way onto one of those missions up in one of those rockets there. So
I applied 4 times, you guys. So here's something else that's changing. Okay, when I was a kid, and you wanted to be an astronaut, you were a test pilot. You had survived, but 3 helicopter crashes, exploding things, and they'd have a clipboard. How many PhDs do you have? And the first box is 100 to 300. And then how many marathons have you run this month? 10? Yeah. And those are the kind of people that we associated with astronautics. But rockets are getting so sophisticated, or launch vehicles are getting so sophisticated. And the control systems, thanks to software and computer hardware, the control and material science, control systems are getting so sophisticated that William Shatner, 90-year-old guy, can get up and down safely and have his life change. They all talk about the overview effect. When you see the Earth from space, it changes you. It changes your perception of the world. And so here, that picture of Earth was a composite of satellite images. And if you know where to look, you can see right there, Hurricane Andrew. Some of you may recall Hurricane Andrew, which just tore up Florida in 1992. And then over here is a picture taken by the LightSail spacecraft, which is the spacecraft that the Planetary Society built. 1607, Johann Kepler, after whom after whom Kepler's laws are named. That's a joke.
I got it.
Was looking at what we now call Comet Halley. You may have grown up calling it Halley's Comet. Well, in 1607, it was just a comet. And he saw the tail, or the two tails, and he realized there's something going on with the sun that's creating these tails. And he speculated that humankind would one day sail on sunbeams. And we are right now. Those of you who are out there and for some reason are not members of the Planetary Society, which would be weird, check us out, planetary.org. We have a spacecraft flying right now. Our solar sail spacecraft is pushed by the pure energy of sunlight. Carl Sagan and his colleagues speculated about this 400 years after Johann Kepler, and we finally pulled it off. So that's our solar sail taking a picture of, that's the Suez Canal, where there was a ship sideways the other day. But everybody, you'll hear all the time, why are we spending money in space when we have all these problems on Earth? You guys, we all rely on space exploration. If people can't tell what side of the street they're standing on without looking at their phones, right? That comes from outer space. People are concerned if the weather report is off 20 minutes. That information comes from space. When we track hurricanes, that's information from space. And the communications, the reason we know what's going on in Afghanistan, say what you will about it, is because we have satellites. And the reason we have this perspective now of Mars is cold, Venus is hot, Earth is just right, is because of space exploration. And everybody, it is very reasonable that all of us, your students especially, have a much better chance of being alive when we find life or evidence of life on another world. If we find fossilized pond scum on Mars, let me tell you, it will change everything. It will be profound. Everybody will feel differently about being a living thing in the cosmos. Stay tuned.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm also blown away that much growing up with Knight Rider and some of these other things, and now we're on our watches and controlling our cars, and they're driving us around, and seeing technology, things that were part of science fiction and now come to reality, and you're touching on it there. What's the next big thing? What are the next big things that you see coming in terms of technology or advancements? Maybe through space exploration of whatever it may be. What do you see as the next major step forward, or what's right on the horizon that you see as, oh my God, Sean, there's this new technology of blank that I really think in X number of years is going to be right here, or any sense of that?
Yeah, there is an answer, everybody. And much as I love rockets and airplanes and all that stuff, I think it's going to be genetics. You may have heard the acronym CRISPR. Give me a moment. Clustered repeating interspace short palindromic repeats. No, it can't be. Clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, CRISPR. So there are proteins that can go along DNA, find a a gene, a sequence of DNA, cut it out, and replace it with another piece of DNA. So, you guys, this could fundamentally change everything. Yes, for human health, it could be profound, where people are not born with certain genetic predispositions for trouble. And so the famous quotation in this meeting with Jennifer Doudna and all these guys was, well, is this ethical to modify human genes with CRISPR? I mean, is that ethical? Then the answer is, would it be ethical not to do it? Like, if you knew a baby could be born with a genetic defect and you didn't do anything about it, like, if I may, dude. All right, but the other fundamental thing I think we'll see with CRISPR, with this genetic technology, genetic splicing technology, is agriculture. We have a future coming where the world is going to be much hotter. The Northwest, which is still, or not Northwest, the Midwest, which is still, or maybe even more so, the breadbasket of the world. I have colleagues at the University of Copenhagen, they talk about it all the time. The North American Midwest feeds the world. Well, if that aquifer dries up, the Ogallala Aquifer, and it gets really hot, we're going to need crops that can tolerate droughts and tolerate flooding, catastrophic or major rain events, precipitation events. And that's going to take modifying the genes of crops. And I think that's going to be the real effect, or so-called impact, of CRISPR. And everybody, it was discovered along about 3 years ago that genes move between species, not between individuals of the same species, but between species all the time. And this was also discovered in plants, where I guess it was I'm pretty sure it was the fungi exchanging genes with a tree, with a viral DNA. And it's common, happens all the time, apparently. And it's furthermore, it's further evidence of evolution. And I would rather not end my career right now, but this notion that you're going to have parents control what's taught in school, which is a popular idea right now. Okay, which parents are going to teach chemistry? Which parents are going to teach physics? Which parents are going to teach algebra, for crying out loud, let alone history? And so everybody, we must, as public educators, as educators, most of us are in public schools. We've got to stay in front of this. We've got to provide the product. And it's not that we're know-it-alls, but there are certain things about chemistry, biology, physics, certain things about history, which are objectively provable. And we just got to stay on top of this. And that's why I say, I want you to save the world. Save the world.
Getting big applause on that one. Well, you touched on something that we've heard as a theme through a lot of our conversations throughout the convention here, and you do this as part of your work in educating people on TV and certainly in the work that you do. How do you get that message through? Right, the individuals that are coming to school board meetings, the individuals that are saying this in certain states and in leadership positions. Sometimes it feels like they're the hardest ones to get through with a message around, facts are facts. It's important to have physics teachers. It's important to have, every one of us as educators playing our role. What strategies do you use as you engage in those conversations? And just as importantly, or more importantly, what suggestions would you have for us as educators to try and get that message through as we're engaging in these conversations in a really personal way right now?
Well, the answer is I've been trying for 30 years, and I'm mediocre at it. So what I just tell everybody is keep your expectations reasonable. And by that, I mean, if you meet somebody, and I'm a raving skeptic. And by raving, I mean, I'm a formal skeptic. I belong to both US-based the skeptics and the Council for Scientific Inquiry, CSI, see what we did there? Yeah. And we investigate for example, haunted houses. We investigate claims of the paranormal. In fact, CSI used to be called CSICOP, Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal. And these are a lot of the people in the organization are magicians, and they're very skilled at seeing how charlatans get away with stuff. Just if you meet somebody who's sure that astrology is true, just remember when you show them that astrology is not true, when you show them over and over again that there are more than 12 kinds of people in the world, when you show them that the wobbling of the earth has caused the constellations to shift as seen from the earth surface, the constellations have shifted about a 12th of a circle over the last 24,770 years. When you show them this, they're not going to change their minds immediately. And so there's the expression, the backfire effect, where and those of you who gamble, more power to you, but you lose and then you bet twice as much the next time. Double down is the expression. People will backfire and double down. And you just I believe you just have to be patient. And after a couple of years, or maybe a few months now with COVID, people will change their minds. When, in the case of COVID, when immediate family members get really sick or die, that is having an effect on people. I mention it because I've seen stories in the New York Times, and there was a story on CBS News about people who were anti-vaxxers, they were QAnon, and then COVID affected their family and they've come around to the scientific side. And so I guess it's patience is the answer. And of course, listen. What makes you believe that? And in general, there's this progression that there isn't this thing where I'm an anti-vaxxer because I don't know what this technology does. This messenger ribonucleic acid messenger RNA does. Okay, so that skepticism leads them to distrust the government on everything, and the world is flat, and there's some mythic deity named Q who's going to show up and solve everything. Instead, there's this progression. So you try to get them to progress back the other way. What makes you believe that? What's the evidence of that? Notice that on August 11th, nothing happened. Notice on January 6th, the guy who got the most popular votes is still president. And notice the earth is not flat. There's a cool t-shirt, like I need more t-shirts. It has NASA's logo. It has the earth rendered in kind of a NASA logo, and it says, "It's round, we checked." Anyway.
Well, if we're still waiting for them to get over the flat part, I'm hoping it's a quicker timeline than that.
It's a weird thing. But along with that, you guys, right now, for me, I know the theme or a theme of this conference, Sean, is justice-centered. We want a justice-centered union, right? And so we want what is it from the time you can first make a sound? You're 11 months old. What's your concern? It's not fair. It's not fair. He's looking at me. That my older brother's looking at me. That's not fair. And this whole business of fairness is carrying all of us, is carried with us all through our lives. And so what we want to do, everybody, is make the world more fair. And I claim the scientific evidence that we are more alike than we are different is overwhelming. And so that's why I want you guys to save the world.
Well, we're working on it. People like you, so we appreciate it.
Well, okay, but go ahead.
No, well, and I want to give some time for you to share any thoughts you would have on things too. But as we are speaking with our students, or if we were to share whatever you may say here and go back into our classrooms and say, we were chatting with Bill Nye and he had these words of wisdom for you. What would you share to students? What would you have us bring back to our kids as we're either science teachers or not science teachers and trying to inspire them to get engaged and to get involved and try and save the world and hopefully maybe do that through science? I'll say with a little bit of a bias, but what would you say?
Well, everybody, I'm a science educator. I became a mechanical engineer because I like to make things and I think science is cool. But no matter what you're teaching, we are living at this extraordinary time where we are confronting racism in a way that never happened. I mean, it sort of happened when I was in elementary school with the civil rights movement and the success, but then it clearly, I won't say it stalled, but it became very clear there's a great deal more to do. And the thing that I talked about on the Science Guy show and show number 3 about skin still fascinates me. And I mention this because I believe it crosses over all of our academic subject areas: social studies, language arts, science, history. And that is when you look at the amount of ultraviolet light that falls on the Earth's surface. Near the equator, there's more ultraviolet light than as you move away from the equator toward the poles. And this is because of the curvature of the Earth, because the Earth is round and so on. And the angle of the light coming from the sun is stronger near the equator, between the tropics. That's it. And so it was discovered, it's been shown, it's been proven that the color of your skin depends on how much ultraviolet light hits the Earth's surface. I did a TikTok about this. It's gotten over 15 million views. It's just me in the kitchen, you guys. Anyway, the color of our skin is intimately connected to where our ancestors lived on the Earth's surface. And that's it. That's the reason we have different skin colors. And then what happened, people in Europe, or Eurasia, much more accurate to say Eurasia, found a way to grow crops and live in cities, and then they could do all these extraordinary productive things. And they discovered astronomy, and we now have calendars and then time zones. And did you realize, by the way, this shocked me, 90% of humans live north of the equator? But wait, I've been to Australia. No, I know. No, what about Indonesia? I know. What about Africa? What about South Africa? What about South America? I know. Anyway, so these North American people invented clocks that run clockwise and started sailing all over the world. And then we're all everywhere now. Humans are everywhere. And we are all alike. Everybody's the same. It's literally less than skin deep, the difference. And so I think that is something to show and teach all of our students, that we're living at this time where we're having a reckoning with this sort of lack of understanding. Now, we all have xenophobia, fear or wariness of outsiders. And I think that's evolutionarily was of great value. Apparently there were only 10,000 Homo sapiens running around in Central Africa just 100,000 years ago. The population of the human we think of now as a human was down to just 10,000 people. But those 10,000 people outcompeted all the other branches of the hominid tree. And here we all are. But we're the same now. And so that, I think, is a lesson that's really cool and exciting to show students of all ages.
Well, certainly.
And so we're not over this racism problem by any stretch, but we are started again on addressing it. And, I grew up in Washington, D.C., in the city limits of Washington. And my dad, was, I don't know if you heard this, or he was a prisoner of war for almost 44 months, almost 4 years. He was a prisoner in China and then Japan, captured by Japanese Navy. And he got fascinated with sundials. And he led me to the story of this guy, Benjamin Banneker. Oh, my goodness. And I guess maybe many of your social studies teachers and language arts teachers know this guy, but what a remarkable man. His father was a freedman who married a woman who had been an indentured servant. And so Benjamin Banneker was born free, of African ancestry, recent African ancestry. And he was the surveyor who surveyed the city limits of Washington, D.C., and he wrote an almanac. I don't know if you guys know what I mean. He computed sunrise and sunset for a year. That's a lot of astronomical mathematics. And he wrote this famous letter to Thomas Jefferson. Hey, man, you said all men are created equal. What are you doing? I paraphrase. And he wrote it with great respect and so on. But that was a long time ago. And we have a long way to go. I just went off on a tangent, imagine. But that guy really influenced me and my dad and respect for science and astronomy. So everybody, we can do this. Working together, we can change the world. And, kids will spend more time with you than they spend with their parents. And your role as public servants is, well, I mean, everybody throws this around, it's priceless. And I was so strongly influenced by virtually every teacher I had that I have such respect for what you do, and I'm counting on you to save us all.
Well, we appreciate that, Bill, and certainly appreciate you sharing also how interconnected everything is, all, whether it be subject areas, whether it be different professions, all that we do. There is a lot on the line right now, and certainly a reckoning in some ways, but also a focus that needs to continue for sure.
So I claim there's more on the line now than ever. Now, we are the heroes of our own story, as the saying goes, and so we all may think we're self-important, whatever society. But everybody, there's never been this many people in the world, and the world has never seen the climate changing this fast, with the exception of the occasional asteroid impact. So we've really got to get this done, and it starts with education. It starts with education. It starts with you guys.
Well, Bill, listen, I'm looking at it here. We got 2 minutes left.
If you guys got to go, you got to go.
We don't have to go. We'll talk with you for another couple hours if you want, but we're happy to do that. But in all fairness, in all seriousness, we really appreciate the conversation and your time today, and would say thank you for the work that you do. We're all in this together for sure, and I guess certainly we're inspired by the work you do, and we appreciate the words of encouragement from you. As you wrap it up, but as you close us out here, what would you like to share to the 200,000 educators in the state of New Jersey who educate our kids and do this wonderful and important work? What would you like to say in closing?
Wow, thank you. First of all, thank you all for your good work. And I know words of encouragement on a Friday afternoon are good, but I'm serious. You all touched as Krista McCullough said, the astronaut, the teacher in space who was killed in the Columbia wreck, space shuttle wreck. She said, I touch the future. I teach. And you all know that. And you all know there's some students you just feel like you don't get to, but there's some students that you change. And we all really appreciate that. And then the big thing I say to everybody, and you all at this conference, you know it as better than anyone, what is it you remember about your favorite teacher? Was it what he or she showed you about algebra, or Benjamin Banneker and the history of slavery in the States and around the world? Was it geography, where you realize the relationship between the continents and how much we don't know about the cosmos? No, it was not a specific thing. It was the passion. That's what you remember about your favorite teachers or professors, was their passion. And when you go to see a movie and it's compelling, or you read a story and it's compelling, and there's something about it that grabs you, it's because that author or the filmmaker or whoever it was, the TV producer, was passionate about it, had something that they wanted to get across. And I got a feeling all of you in the New Jersey Educational Association have that passion, and that's why you're tuned in today. And I say celebrate. And I know there's some days where you just don't feel like it. Oh, we got to wear another mask. We got to deal with this parent who's a little, I got to deal with this kid who's being a pain in the what have you. But stay passionate, because it's your passion that will grab the students and enable them to succeed in the world, and enable them with your guidance to save the world for all of us. Thank you so much for including me.
Bill Nye, everybody. We sense his passion, and you're helping to recharge ours. Bill Nye, the science guy, everybody. Big round of applause. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you. Wow.
Thanks for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Gosh, that was great, you guys. That was big fun. Do I click this now?
Yeah, we'll schedule another time for the next hour that you offered, Bill. We'll do it again.
You guys, and, when we are able to travel again, and look, I know there's some of you out there, I'm sure there's some of you out there who may not be explicitly anti-vax, but everybody get vaccinated, will you? For crying out loud. And here's why I want you to get vaccinated. Oh, yes, I care about you. I care about your quality of life. Oh, yes, sure I do. No, I care about me, all right? This goes back centuries. If you don't get vaccinated, this thing is going to mutate. It's evolution. That's just what happens. It's going to mutate, and then you're going to make people like me sick. For crying out loud. I went to elementary school with a guy who had polio. You do not want polio. You do not want to be crippled. Okay, nobody does. Nobody wants, I don't think, wants somebody else to be crippled. For crying out loud. When I was a kid, we weren't allowed to go outside in the summer because of polio. We absolutely were not allowed to go swimming. And in Washington, D.C. in the summer, back then, even maybe more now, it's hot and humid and it's troubling. We could not go outside because everybody was afraid of polio. We got a vaccine, and nobody's afraid of it. Nobody. So please, everybody, encourage your family, your students, everyone to get vaccinated so that we can get past this, and I can come to New Jersey and we all hang out together in person.
We're hearing it. We heard it first here, everybody. We're going to start the Save the Bill Nye campaign, get everyone vaccinated, and Bill Nye's coming to Jersey to visit us. So that's the deal, everybody. Let's get it done. Bill, thanks so much again. You have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And certainly to all of you who have tuned in, and certainly all of you here, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you really enjoyed the convention. Hope to see you again soon, and thank you for the great work that you do. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.